This session has grown out of the meat processing talks that we've had that started in June, and Tracy has just had so many contributions to those sessions that I asked her to give a specific co-op session. So just a little about Tracy. She's from Eureka, Montana, and has a tremendously deep background in economic development, particularly in rural areas. And she's now the executive director of the Montana Cooperative Development Center. So welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. So thank you so much. I think everybody can see my screen. Can everybody see it? Thumbs up if you can. Perfect. Sounds good. I'm going to actually minimize. I put all of it out so I could see who I was talking to. So just give me a second to minimize that. So first, I want to say thank you to Arrow and the Montana Organic Association for inviting us to speak today. I wish it was in person, though. I'm missing my PowerPoint pointer for some reason really badly today. Just the way it is, though. So what I wanted to do is I'm going to kind of go through what Montana Cooperative Development Center, what we do in our office, what the cooperative ecosystem and kind of impacts across the state of Montana. And then I would like this because I find presentations to be more impactful if there's some dialogue back and forth. So at any time, if you have questions, feel free to interrupt, raise your hand. I'm not going to be able to maybe see chats or something. So Jamie, if you see if I miss something, please let me know. And we'll just get started. So first I wanted to give you the overview of our two organizations. Many don't understand that we have two within our office that shares the staff. So I am the director of the Montana Cooperative Development Center. This is a statewide economic development organization. We're really focused on building the new co-ops and addressing community needs through that. And then we also are the managers of the Montana Council of Cooperatives, which is our statewide trade association for all sectors of cooperatives that are focused on sustaining and growing co-ops after they've been formed. Missions are very similar, and that's why we work so well together and why we do share office and staff. The cool thing that I think about having both of them in the same office too is that we start you when it's an idea. MCDC comes in and we can be there from the very beginning. We walk you through the formation of your cooperative, and then we can continue to help as you're in operation and if you have further needs through the council. And the council really is about uniting, promoting, and strengthening cooperative businesses. MCDC is about the development and more economic development. Both organizations does serve the entire state of Montana. To give you an overview of all the different cooperative supports and activity that we have happening, this slide kind of represents that. So you'll see that we have our two organizations, the Montana Cooperatives in themselves. There's 3 trade associations that we work closely with that are very sector specific. That's the credit unions, the electrical cooperatives, and the telecommunication. And then we also have a series of legal and accounting professionals that we are working that can understand cooperative law and cooperative accounting. It is a goal of MCDC's this year to bring in some additional educational components and expand those legal and accounting professionals across the state. The way we operate, it's a big state. We all know that. There's 4 of us in the state office. I actually think I saw Davey on. So she's, Davey, do you want to take your camera off real quick and say hi? So that's Davey Madison. She's in Helena, working remotely from there. She is our program director. I think she's 3 months into the job. Otherwise, I probably would have had her be doing this presentation today. There's 4 of us in the state office. And then how we do it is that we, as entry points, we have contracts with local development organizations covering all corners of the state of Montana. And we also have a new contract this year with the Native American Development Corporation. So we make sure that we're providing services for cooperative development in reservations as well. So giving you an overview, I'm not going to go into the details. So definitely ask questions if you have that, if you want some more. But a cooperative in Montana, there's 4 chapters that we actually can incorporate under. It is a business owned and controlled by the people that are going to use it. Earnings are allocated annually, and that's where you hear the terms patronage or dividends. Those come out of how those members have used the services or used the cooperative and how those earnings are allocated. And then profits are only taxed once, either as the co-op, as the corporation, or as just distributed income to the member owners. So again, and this kind of is a little bit repetitive, but you'll really hear us hone in that cooperatives' purposes are really about the users, about the members. It's a one member, one vote. It's user benefits, user owned, and user controlled. Everybody has equal voice at the table. Now, co-ops have the ability, we have 2 forms of stock. Your common stock is what purchases your membership and your voting power. And then there's preferred stock, which is usually kind of an investing stock. So say, I'm going to say Patty, Robin, and I have a co-op. Patty and Robin decided that they wanted to invest more into it, but that doesn't buy them any extra votes. Everybody always retains 1 vote. Cooperatives also follow 7 internationally recognized principles. I tried really hard to bribe my dog not to be barking, and she's going to. Sorry about that. So all of the 7, and these were adopted back in like the early 1800s. And they include voluntary and open membership. And I get a lot of questions about what that means. It does not mean that if you have a dairy farm in Montana that you have to have somebody from like a downtown New York City join and you have to allow them in. You can design what that membership looks like. You just can't discriminate based on gender, social, racial, political, or religion means. Democratically member controlled. This again, that 1 vote, one member is very much how we want to see every co-op working. Members should be using it. They should be economically involved. They bought their common stock. They should be actually participating in the economic being economic participant. Autonomy and independence, again, it just comes back to a lot of cooperatives have partners and they can do other things, but you are controlled by the members that you serve. It's not only a principle, but actually in the state statutes, education, training, and information is required. You do have to provide so much education back out to your community, your constituents. That can be flexible, but that is a huge one. Cooperation among cooperatives. We all like to work together. You'll see a lot of that happening. I think that even like during these snowstorms that many of us are experiencing, you'll see different electrical co-ops come out and help different areas. And then concern for the community, co-ops give back. And I'm actually going to share some numbers in a few about the impact in Montana on how much we have actually given back to communities. So cooperatives can be consumer owned, they can be worker owned, they can actually be entities seeking like shared services. So we have maybe a group of restaurants looking at sharing workers or sharing overhead costs and those type of things. So that's what that means. And recently we've seen a lot of these hybrid models coming out where they can be consumer, worker, or have a variety of different levels of ownership. A federated cooperative is like CHS. They have individual cooperatives in certain areas, and then there's an overarching federated cooperative. And then they can have many functions, marketing, purchasing, service. The beauty that I've always found in cooperatives and why I've been so passionate about them for so long is they have such flexibility in the way that they're designed. The legal structures, I'm not going to go into all these details, but it is important because our structure in Montana sets us apart from most of the other states. We are blessed with having a Chapter 15 for-profit cooperative association. This gives us a lot of opportunity to be on the ground in developing these for-profit business models. And it also doesn't limit us to work in just one sector. As I'm starting to get to know many of my counterparts, some of them they just do worker ones, they just do agricultural ones. And a lot of other states are actually commonly formed as nonprofit corporation with exempt stock, where we have this kind of unique one that gives us a lot of opportunity to do cooperative development in the state of Montana. We see most of our work is in Chapter 15, the co-op associations. That's anything goes. We have had yoga studios, we've had midwives. We still have just a variety of different ones over the course of our 20 years of being here. And then we also use a lot of Chapter 17, which is the Agricultural Marketing Association. So our impacts, it is co-op month, so I thought it was important to show you. There's an estimated 160 co-ops in the state of Montana. We have seen some consolidation, so that number kind of moves on us a little bit. We've seen a lot of consolidation of our farm supply co-ops, some within the credit unions. 25 electrical co-ops have been pretty steady, as well as the 8 telecoms. And then just so I've gotten the comment numerous times that this is a new form of business. Co-ops actually date back to like the early 1700s. And right now in the state, in the US, there's over 40,000 cooperatives, and the impact is over 25 billion in wages. And then there's 2.6 million cooperatives worldwide. So we're definitely not new, but we are seeing some emerging interest and uniqueness in the ways that we're using the cooperative model on the ground. In Montana, in 2018, of 100 co-ops surveyed, $1.84 billion was generated in the state of Montana, and we donated back through scholarship, education funds, and community contributions 2.1 million. And then the other big one I want to point out here is average wage for a co-op is in 2018, it was $84,950. At the same time, the average wage in the state of Montana was $44,000. So our jobs are definitely elevating the quality of life, I guess is the way to say that. We are in the middle of doing our 2020 impact report, so hopefully we come out with some new numbers and really see how our co-ops have fared through the COVID crisis. We cover, again, I kind of touched on this, but as we've come through the last 8 months, we've seen an increase of inquiries to our services. We're in broadband discussions. We're doing a lot more training and education about what cooperatives are, how we can do it, childcare, housing. And then as related to more of the ag side, I'm going to actually move my slide one more time because I wanted to get into a little bit more of the agricultural components. We've got meat processing. Actually, Patty and his team are helping the Jefferson County Local Development do a feasibility on a producer-owned co-op for meat processing. And we have a handful of producer and consumer co-op discussions happening all across the state. We're partnered with INCAT to do some food distribution studies and really understanding where our food is coming and how it is getting across the state. This focuses mostly on rural, remote, and reservation communities and in central and eastern Montana. There's been an increase, and we're doing a lot of work around the development of food hubs and food sovereignties. What I found interesting, the food hub seems to be more in our urban conversations, but the food sovereignties have definitely been coming up with our Native American communities. A lot of interest in kind of self-sustaining and building means. So during the heat of COVID, we heard from a number of grocery stores that they were struggling getting their orders. And that's where those two areas kind of came through. We have a group, and this is a group that is funded through the Montana Farmers Union, of young producers looking at grass bank development. So where they will buy or lease large swaths of land, keeping land in operation for agriculture, and then hopefully getting that next generation into the ability to operate their own production. Marketing and branding is always kind of a conversation around us. And then we also have worker-owned conversions. We started a discussion just yesterday. I don't even think I have talked to Davey about this yet. A company is looking at, it is an ag-based company, privately owned. The owners want to step aside. They're tired. They want to retire. And so the workers, there's about 7 to 10 full-time workers, want to know if they can purchase it through a cooperative means. So that's one that I think could also play a role. We've seen a lot of rural grocery store conversions in the past. I'm expecting to see a couple more this year. And then just the development of food co-ops. The Butte Food Co-op is our newest one that actually has registered. They filed their intent, so they're in the next phase of it. And then opportunity development cooperatives. This one is, these are our investing cooperatives. We're modeling these after what our friends north of us in Alberta have been doing. Alberta is seeing a lot of really great activity of being able to invest locally. And so these are kind of developing a localized investment fund, but the community members invest into these opportunity development cooperatives, and then they decide where they want to do it. So that can be bricks and mortar, where they clean up main streets. They can help incubate and grow businesses. I can see it working in the ag community of possibly, developing like an RLF program for equipment, or the sky is really the limit on how we use the opportunity development cooperatives. And Davey told me earlier this week that she thinks one needs to be in every county, every city in Montana. So she's got quite the goal there going on. And then I've been talking a lot. So this is my last major slide, and then I hope we can get into dialogue. Usually in these type of conversations, the first thing that comes up, or the first question I get, is what are the steps? I don't want to overwhelm everybody with showing this and being like, oh my goodness, there are 13 steps in forming a cooperative. It is because you have that democratically controlled, you need that engagement throughout it. So it's a lot of moving and making sure people are engaged and participating from the start. So what we ask, we're here. And even though this can seem a little overwhelming, MCDC and our partners out in the field with our co-op development specialist, we're here to walk you through all of these steps and make it so it's not daunting by any means. We encourage that the first thing that's done after you host an introductory meeting, like say there's a handful of you that want to talk about developing a meat processing cooperative, have that meeting. And then from that meeting, if it's decided that there's a genuine interest, and we can come into that introductory meeting and give an overview of what a co-op is, what are the steps, what can we be doing to make one happen. If there's a genuine interest afterwards, form your steering committee, and those guys are going to be your champions that really are going to walk through the remainder of these steps. Though it looks very linear, overall, it kind of ebb and flows. Our role as the Co-op Development Center for the state is not to dictate this or to make it happen as much as to provide that guidance. And there's a handful, like number 5, file with the Secretary of State and Montana Securities. We have those forms. We help you develop those. We have the draft bylaw or templates of bylaws and articles. So we have many steps that we can do, and we often will bring legal in if there's any questions or if we want to have a legal review of anything at that time. And so with that, I wanted to open it up and have a dialogue. I think we have a lot of time that we can just kind of get into a deeper discussion. I'm hoping that you all joined because you wanted to know more about co-ops and have some ideas. So Jamie, if you're good with it, we'll just open this up and
Absolutely.
go into that. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
If you're looking for your unmute button, it's down at the, it should be down at the left corner.
I have a question. This is Robin from Arrow. Hi, great job. This is fascinating to me. Can you share more about the study that you're partnering on with NCAT on? I didn't quite capture the co-op connection. Is there an intention? Is the study to see about making co-ops for distribution?
Yeah. So this actually is a project I somewhat inherited, and I love that I see Linda Howard is on here because I might ask her how things are going on it. So before I've only been in the office as the executive director for a year and a couple months now. And the MCDC had received what's called a socially disadvantaged group grant, which is a program that co-op development centers can receive. And the focus really is on reservations. How do we know how to build that better? And part of the conversations we've had with the tribal communities is this need around food distribution and sovereignty. So that kind of laid some groundwork on that. And we were heading towards developing that. Within that program, we also did a study with the law clinic to make sure that there's no tribal laws that we need to be concerned with. We're participating on a national level with some training programs on cultural and being sure that we're being culturally sensitive and understanding just how we're interacting when we're developing cooperatives. Within that, though, was this scope to move forward with this study. And I think it was a perfect timing for it. And we were able to kind of not just do it on the reservations in Montana, but to do it for the remote and kind of looking at that rural settings. And so it is a study to say, where is our fund, or where is our food coming from? How much is it costing us? Who's providing it? And then Linda, do you want to say anything? I'm throwing her under the bus. I don't think she realized that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm kind of wrapping up this study. So I have been all around the state visiting rural grocery stores, everywhere from Lame Deer to Culbertson, out to Havre, Big Sandy, Fort Benton, Denton, all over the place, and have had phone visits with lots of grocery stores in the western part of the state, from Thompson Falls to Hot Springs, all over the place, finding out, how their distribution is going, how their supply chain is going, who their main distributors are, their secondary distributors, and whether they're getting fair pricing, whether they're getting everything they order. And then I also did a market basket survey. So in all of those stores, I did a price check on 10 different items. So we were consistent across the board, everything from ground beef to honey nut Cheerios, but to see how they compared in all of those places. And so we're seeing what kind of price point, why people travel 70 miles to get groceries, because they're paying 75 to 80% more in their little, hometowns. But I'm also asking the grocers, what do you need to do to make people stay in your little community? What can we do in a supply chain distribution way that would give you a better price point and help people help your store stay alive and thrive, and help people spend more money in those rural communities. So people are very, very creative when it comes to getting groceries for little stores. I just heard today about somebody who's got somebody in their community that has to drive 40 miles with their pickup truck every Thursday to because they're ordering together with another grocery store from Associated Foods. Instead of having Associated Foods drive out that extra 35 miles, So because a lot of stores can't meet the minimum buying requirements for somebody like an Associated Foods. So anyway, people are being creative, but we want to look at ways that we can help them maybe consolidate their orders, create maybe miniature distribution hubs. I'm going to give all of my findings to Tracy, and then she's going to, there's little fixes and there's bigger fixes. There's bigger capital investments. There's all kinds of things that we can do at this point, but we just trying to find out right now what the needs are, what the distribution network looks like. And it's very interesting out there in Montana land.
And then Robin, one of the things that happened also during the heat of COVID, we have some grocery stores that are actually cooperative grocery stores. They called us and then it kind of bloomed for about 2 months. We were under this discussion of possibly doing a cooperative distribution to do just what Linda said, consolidate some order, make sure that they can meet minimum requirements, have a centralized hub, but then instead of them driving in, does that co-op own their own trucking and then go out for further? And so that's part of why we kind of paused, wanting to get the information, and then that's going to be available. Like, we're not going to sit on it in our offices by ourselves. We're also joined with No Child Hungry in Montana. I'm butchering the name of that. We've been under discussions with some other groups about, once we get this, if we start looking at in the regional co-op distribution components, is those also access points for as we get meat processing online in the state and as we start building Montana products, can those be entry points in for us to actually distribute Montana made food to Montanans as well? So big goal. We'll see if we make it there.
Wow. Shauna Eagleton has a question. She's with Delpine Farms. She is wondering if you can give a basic description of what a meat and food grower producer co-op would look like.
Yeah, so this is, again, the beauty of what they are is everyone can be a little different. And so what that could potentially look like is your producers, meat and growers could come in, and then you guys could figure out a way to cooperatively sell, market, process. You could do a commercial kitchen, whatever that need is. So I'm going to kind of go back, is the important thing about co-ops is that you're designing them during that process to fit your actual need. There's a lot of flexibility about how that end product works, but we really work with you to make sure that your business plan and your end product actually will fit that. So it's kind of hard for me to say exactly what this would look like because each one's going to be a little different, but there is a and I can send it to you, Jamie. There's one that we just found out that is actually in California. It's Bay Ranch Cooperative, I think is how it was called. And it's a group of ranchers. They're not only, they brought it in, they bring their animals in, they all process it there, and then they're marketing them and selling them together. And so that's usually it. It's that everybody's coming together to find solutions to a common need. I don't know if that answered it, Shauna, so let me know.
We actually do have an organic beef marketing group, the Montana Organic Producers Co-op.
Yes.
And Doug, I think, have you had a little interaction with them? Did you want to share what's going on there?
It has mainly been a beef marketing group until this year. And this year, I'm a member of the co-op, and I also serve as their crop marketing guy. And so we've started to cooperatively market organic crops as well.
I had a phone call from one of them about the change that's happening and that they're going to start putting that crop component into it. So that's exciting. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jamie. She put it in the chat.
Okay, Robin, you have a question?
No, I was saying thank you.
And we can share different, like if there's any specific ones that you want to see. I think a lot of what people are used to in Montana is that, you know, a good portion of us belong to an electric co-op, a telephone co-op, a credit union, or a farm supply store. Those are kind of the big ones that we hear about. Montana Farmers Union, CHS, depending where you're at, you know, here in Great Falls, the Mountain View is quite a large one too. And so those are where people kind of go when we talk about cooperatives, but then we are here to say that, you know, those are great and we fully support them and we engage with them. We want to see them succeed and grow, but that cooperatives have such that flexibility again, that we really can work with any group and look at those possibilities of it. And because it can be a business model, we're not creating nonprofits, we're creating businesses that literally look at the sustainability of it. They have to look at their business plan and business financials and all of that.
So we have Michelle Shazinski here, and she's with the Yellowstone Valley Food Hub. Did I get that right?
Great. Hi, Michelle.
Hi. Hey. So we are a agricultural marketing cooperative here in Billings, Montana, and it's super interesting. I'm happy to answer any more specific questions. I guess a question that I was looking at, you had the different chapters, like different designations that you can, like the Chapter 17 Agricultural Marketing Association, and then it says profit or nonprofit next to those, and some were nonprofit, some were for profit. I was curious I know you talked a little bit about it, but if you could talk a little more about what that difference is.
Yeah, so we're the unique ones for sure. So our ag and our electrical ones are actually classified as more of a nonprofit setting with exempt in your stock options. And so I would not say that you are a nonprofit as in like MCDC. You still want to manage it as a business. But the way it's classified from our state statutes into the federal statutes is that you will be treated as that, which comes with some benefits. Like the electrical co-ops actually can apply for EDA funds, which is really exciting because we learned that a couple years ago. So it's just the way that it's classified, and then we can go into deeper detail. And Michelle, I would actually want to probably take that offline with you on the tax structure and why that's done that way and break it down. And we would have Marilyn or Davey can do a follow-up with you with a lot more detail on when you get into that tax side, because that's not my strong suit. But that's part of why it is. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. We had a long discussion earlier about how our tax classifications, and it's not my strong suit either. So that would
it's definitely not mine. Yep. But thank you, because we helped you. It was before I came on board, but you were listed as one of MCDC's projects. So I'm glad to meet you. My goal this last summer was I was going to go out and meet all these co-ops, and I was like, hey, we're here as the council and MCDC. And then I just couldn't do it. So maybe some other day I'll get out there.
Mm-hmm. I'm new to the position too, so I think our interaction predates both of us. So.
Okay, perfect.
Fresh.
But it's going well.
Yeah, things are going well. We're definitely trying to figure out how to kind of manage the growth, which is a really great problem to have. COVID has at least tripled, quadrupled our sales, and so we are just figuring out how to run with that. So yeah, things are going well, but you can always use more of that institutional knowledge as a new co-op.
Yeah. Well, if there's anything that we can do, you let us know.
Great. Thank you.
Ben, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just, sorry, I had my video off where we've been on about 7 hours of Zoom calls with the Tri-National Accord happening this week. But I want to thank you for putting this on. I think the potential potential here, as you know, is through the roof. I think there's so much opportunity, and Yellowstone Valley Food Hub is a great example of some of the exciting things that are going on. I also wish I'd been able to come out there already, but we certainly have restricted travel as much as possible. And I just want to say we're a resource. We have the expert on co-ops. I mean, you led this call. Just really am excited about what you are doing. And if there's ways we can help with that, please, as always, let us know. I've enjoyed our interactions in the past, and like many of us, I regret how these past few months have restricted some of the work we could have been doing. But at the same time, we've also accomplished quite a bit. So thanks again.
And I should say thank you to Ben. So you guys understand, we're funded partly through an appropriation that Ben's office gives us. We get that annual appropriation, which really allows us then to compete very well on the national level through USDA. So we've been able to leverage both of those with a lot of funding that's received by our cooperative. So thank you, Ben, for your support. And yeah, always good to have you guys at the table with us.
And I believe Christy Clark is on as well, or she may have been earlier. If anyone doesn't know her, she's the administrator over our marketing and development programs. And so she's also a person you'll probably want to interact with at some point. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. We have 2 questions in the chat. The first one is it possible, or how would a private farm organize as a cooperative? What would the business structure be to facilitate employee ownership and protect the mission of the founders?
Okay, great question. So we are seeing that happen. We had one group that was looking, it was a family owned, and they're in process, and they've actually kind of toyed yet whether or not this is a good fit for them or not. It is a conversion, and so we can do these conversions, and so that conversion process is mainly there is legal side here, so we do bring in a lawyer to help us make sure that we've got all of those steps done correctly. But you do go through, you create your bylaws, you create your purpose. Now remember, for ag co-ops, there's 5 or more members. For co-op associations, it's 3 or more, and so as a private one, you would have to look at who would be your members, and then we treat you pretty much the same, making sure that you identify what's the purpose, the need, what would be your stock buy-in, how would you do that, and then move you through the steps just like any other co-op with some legal reviews, because you've got that conversion part which happens at the Secretary and Security Commission. So that's not our expertise, we throw that over to the legal guys.
Okay, great.
Did that answer that one? There was 2 parts though, wasn't there?
There's a second question.
Okay.
And that is about tax liability. Just to clarify, that tax is only paid once through the co-op. So I guess that would be dividends are not taxed then, or?
It depends on how the cooperative is set up. So that is something that during that process that we set it up, that co-op needs to decide if the corporation will be paying the taxes. So on the profit that comes through, the cooperative can, and then they can give those patronage or dividends to the members, and that is a non-taxable item, or they can pass that tax out into your dividends and you have to pay for it as individuals. It's usually what's that term when you have like a extra $9.90 or whatever it is. So you receive that, and then you do have to include them on your taxes. Now, most electrical, like when you get your capital credits, those are not normally taxable, but it just depends case by case.
I think you got that question nailed too. Any other questions, or does anyone have additional news on co-ops that are forming, or?
Davey, do you want to give your spiel on your opportunity development co-ops? Because this is her baby, and she has she's been talking about some cool ideas about how we can use them more in rural communities. And there's the look I just got, like, thanks, boss, throwing me under.
I don't really want to, but I will. So I'll just kind of do a high level overview of sort of, so I've, like Tracy said, I've only been in this job for a few months, so I'm still kind of on my learning curve. But one of the things that I've been kind of throwing myself into is opportunity development cooperatives, which essentially are investing cooperatives. But they're very interesting and they're very cool because it's basically a local solution for capital to inject either into your businesses, to your projects, to real estate. They're kind of formed, Alberta's kind of led the way on this in a lot of regards, and they have them set up in different ways. So some of them are formed around a specific project or a specific business to give them some capital injection. And then there's also ones that are also done just by community members who are just trying to, you know, do some things around their community. So, and then they can decide what those projects are after they're formed. Their formation's a little faster, which I think is kind of cool. So when the people are trying to figure out some funding sources for different projects or businesses or whatever that may be, I think that they could be a really interesting way. We have changed the name of them to this Opportunity Development Cooperative because under Montana state law, you can never get more than 6% back. So you're not really investing your money to make a big return. You're really investing that money for your community. And I think the reason that I really think they're cool is that they are something, you know, I'm from Wolf Point originally. And if there was one in Wolf Point, I could be a member of that cooperative. I could inject my money into my hometown and see some good things done, which I think is really cool. And I think that's a really interesting way for people to become a member of a cooperative, support their community that they live in or the community that they're from, in my case. And so I think they're just a really interesting way to get some of those workarounds done. There's also a couple in Alberta that are set up as revolving loan funds for startup capital for small businesses that wouldn't normally be able to have access to any capital at all. So they're really cool and they're really interesting, and there's lots of ways to make them work. And I think that they're really a community effort. You're not gonna become a millionaire by investing in this kind of cooperative, but you are gonna make a huge impact within your community, which I think is really great.
And one of the ones in Alberta that they did, they actually invested in a meat processing butcher area because it was a community that had a lot of cattlemen around the area. And they really wanted to make sure that they had a place to take care of that meat. And so they developed that. It was San Gudos, right? That they did that in.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the interesting thing about the investment co-op is that you are making sort of this capital investment into a business. And so when we kind of talk about, you know, what are the hangups with, you know, the worker model or the producer model, it kind of bypasses that because you're actually just giving that money to that business to try to help them form for your own community. So the complication isn't quite as much as you would especially if you're trying to do sort of a hybrid worker, producer, consumer model, you know, trying to meld everything in all in one. Because you can really have any person could be a part of that if they want to see that get lifted off the ground.
Thanks, Davey. I'm getting off easy today.
I'll jump in here. Oh, Doug has a question, it looks like.
I do. I guess I am, as I said in the earlier question, we're looking at or starting to look at different business models. And I guess it is not clear to me what the advantage or disadvantage for that matter is of a cooperative corporation versus a C Corp or an S Corp or a B Corp for that matter. Could you address those differences or advantages, disadvantages?
Davey, can you do that? She's on mute. Hold on.
On mute. Yeah, I think I can. I think the biggest advantage of it, because the way that they're structured in Montana is they are for profit and they follow basically corporate law. So like anything when they're formed, the formation and the way that they're run is different, but they do have to follow basically they're set up that way. They're set up for profit. You should have a sustainable business model. But I think that the major advantage of it is sort of comes down to this I mean, to be honest, it's the social kind of do-gooder aspect of it, right? So I think that's really, to me, that's the big advantage of that, is that you're not, if you're forming a corporation, you want to make as much money as possible. When you are in a cooperative, you want to make money, but you also want that cooperative to be benefiting everyone who is using it and everyone who is a member. So like the benefit aspect of that, I think, is probably the biggest thing. I think there's also, in my opinion, I think there's a little bit of the tax advantage with it is kind of interesting to me, and I'm still sort of in my learning curve on this as well. But the tax advantage is a little different too, because you're not having one or two or a board that is making all the decisions and having all of those impacts. And so it's really a collective, you know, it's more of a collective burden, if you will, for that piece. And also, also those opportunities are collective. And so I think really the big difference to me is that you're forming this business because you're trying to do something better. You're trying to make it better for your community. You're trying to make it better for the people who are using it. You're trying to provide a service. You're trying to do something that makes a lot of sense. You're not trying to make a lot of money and sell down the road. I think that, to me, that would be the advantage of that. But then, of course, also look at the issues of forming one. It does take longer. It is a more in-depth process to form one, because you do have to get so many people on board. But I think it depends on sort of where your values are. If you want to form as a corporation under just a regular C Corp, or if you want to form under a corporation as a cooperative, it kind of depends on where the values of that business is.
And Doug, we can send you an actual breakdown that gives you the comparison and all the tax structure type thing. The other things I can see adding into this. What? Oh, Davey was trying to find it.
I'm trying to find it.
I'm writing everything too, so that's been a nice thing. Like, we're rebranding everything. So the other couple benefits I see, one is that the capital, the way that you gain capital is through your membership, right? And so the general rule of thumb when we're forming cooperatives is that we take your first year performance and we look at what that operational capital is needed there. And that kind of sets your capital stock, and is that doable within your members? And then you can also move it into a preferred stock option. And so just through this stock options, which have some exemptions in the Security Commission as well, you have a little bit more flex on how you can capitalize it. Now, some of these bigger ones that need bricks and mortar, we're still going to be looking at loans and everything along that lines. But so that's one benefit. And then the other thing is, going back to the shareholders, you're based on that your vote is the same as any other shareholder. It's not based on the amount of money that you put into it. And so that's kind of what Davey was touching on, is that you vote for your board to do that oversight, and that board hires that manager to do the day-to-day work, or if you even get to that stage. But the important part is that it is truly democratically controlled. And so sometimes I struggle when it's 3 to 5 people wanting to form a co-op, unless there's a true reason there. Or, you know, but for a larger group or a larger need in a community, I definitely think that this is a good, solid answer. And we'll get you that breakdown. Jamie, is there well, we can just put it when we do the, when we post the recording, we can maybe put that tax structure breakdown in.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can include that.
I'll send you just this cooperative structure kind of comparison right now.
Okay.
I think there's a way for me to put it in the chat, but I can't figure it out. So I'll just send it to you, Jamie.
I'll see if I can. If not, we'll make sure that we get it to you guys so you have that tax breakdown.
Thanks. So is everybody ready to form a co-op? I am. Sounds great. Any other questions? Oh, Robin's got a question.
I guess I have a question for Doug. I'm just curious what your experience has been so far with your group.
You're meaning the Montana Producers Co-op?
Yeah.
Well, I just joined early this spring or late past winter, and we got one contract for malt barley, and that was our dipping our toes, if you will, into the crop marketing. And I guess I sound very hem-haw here because I don't have a lot of experience to share yet.
Mhm.
We do have Wes Henthorn on, and
Yeah, Wes has been at it a lot longer than I have.
Maybe Wes, you can jump on and share. He's with the Montana Organic Producers Co-op. There we go.
Okay. All right. I was just gonna send a message to the group and step out. I don't know. I've been involved with co-ops at a lot of levels. I was a manager of a farm supply co-op in Sun River, Montana, when Farmers Union Central Oil Company, or Cenex, was trying to force us out of business, and they succeeded by steering our business to other local co-ops. That left kind of a shitty taste in my mouth, just to be blunt. So I've done that. I moved here to Big Timber over 35 years ago and got here just in time to watch them do the same thing to the local farm supply co-op here, so that they could direct their business to bigger co-ops in the area. So co-ops can outgrow their community basis, in my experience. I've also, been involved with the Montana Organic Producers Co-op at a fairly low level since it was formed. I was I guess one of the founding members there. I have not sold very many cattle through the co-op. I have watched it be a valuable tool for a lot of other producers that have difficulties marketing their cattle, especially people in the northern part of the state that are a long ways from good processing, and they're a really long ways from markets where they can sell live cattle. And primarily the live sales there have gone to Panorama Meats in Colorado. And we have some concerns about what's going to happen in the future with the trucking rules and how people are going to get, actually be able to get their cattle to Panorama. So there's a lot of work going on there. We're mostly, I guess, from what we do is we sell beef wholesale to stores. We sell retail directly to customers. And the advantage that we have in how we operate is we're 15 miles from a processing plant, and we have a 10-year relationship with the plant. I see Brian isn't here any longer, but that's who we've worked with for a long time. And it was about relationship building to reach a place where we can get cattle processed as we need them, and we sell fresh beef every week. I think there are lots of neat things that you can do in co-ops, and we still we write checks every month to Park Electric and have built some capital credits there, and do the same thing with Triangle Telephone. And I didn't think much about it at the time, but we signed up quite a while ago, and we've actually got a pretty good capital buildup in that particular co-op. So that's pretty neat. It's a hard thing to get any business off the ground, and I think that one of the key things that cooperatives do is generally they're formed by groups of people that want to get things done. And so you end up with people that have a common purpose. Hopefully by bringing in more people, you can have a situation where you can find an awful lot of talent within your group and be successful in business. It's a little less daunting than just striking out on your own to see what you can get done.
Thanks,
I guess, Robin, you kind of caught me off guard with that question earlier, but on the crop side, the reason I joined the co-op and the reason that others of us are interested in marketing cooperatively is we've experienced, despite being a fairly large farm and growing, the processing sector, the ones that we sell to, are consolidating and growing much faster than we are. And in the organic market, where we used to be able to sit down at a table and shake hands and make a deal that was profitable on both sides, particularly in the last 3 to 5 years, we've found that the entities that we're now selling to are so large that they could care less whether we do business or not. And my hope is that by joining with other growers in a cooperative, we can even those scales a little bit. And, just from a very practical purpose, I know, some of these buyers, I won't name any names, but you can get their attention if you say, I have 10,000 acres of wheat to sell. If you've only got 1,000, they could care less. And, it's just trying to even those scales really and get some more access. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Tracy and Davey, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So we have gone to a remote office. All of our contact information is on our website, mcdc.coop. My cell phone is 868-0757. That's an office cell. And then my email is tracy@mcdc.coop. And Davey, I don't have her phone number memorized, so she can tell you hers.
I have my phone number memorized either. But you can call me on my regular cell phone. So I'm actually based out of Helena. And you can get a hold of me at 406-465-0679 or Davey@mcdc.coop.
And her name has an E in it, Davey. Mine does not. It's Tracy at mcdc.coop. So, yeah. But we welcome any questions or comments. Doug will definitely get those tax advantage or tax breakdown and the difference between the different ones. We have a pretty good handout. And every time I do one of these, I get a question about the tax ones. And I'm like, oh, that is not my strong suit. And I'm going to have to remember to pull that in front and put it in front of me so I can always reference it.
Okay. Well, thanks, Tracy and Davey and MCDC for this wonderful presentation. And thanks, Robin and Arrow, for the co-sponsor. And thanks, everyone, for attending and for your thoughtful questions and interesting questions. There is a recording of this session, and it will be up on the MOA YouTube channel within a day or two. It should be. And then along with Tracy, whatever material Tracy would like to share.
And you can share my slides too and anything else. Yep, we can do that. So thank you all. And yeah, hopefully we see some new co-ops forming. We like it.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Stay warm.
You have a good day.